All right, what is going on, everybody? Quancredible here, and I will be the first to tell you that in chapter 82 of Four Nights, nothing really important happens. Like, I'll be the first one to tell you that nothing really important happens at all. It is more of a wrap up, or more like, I guess, less of a wrap up and more of a transition into what's going to happen next. There were a lot of good things that happened in this chapter that I was a fan of, but if you were looking for like lots of like plot progression and story and lore, there wasn't a ton of that. But this chapter is still very necessary all the same, because I do feel like it's setting up some very interesting framework for where we might be going next and what's going to happen next in the series. So the main premise of this chapter is it explores Percival's three allies, so Donnie, Nansons, and Annie, and kind of where they are in their where they are in Leonis and what they're about to do next. Or I guess it doesn't say what they're about to do next, but it basically kind of hints to it. So the first person that we get to see is Annie. She's going for a walk, and this is when she runs into Isolde. Now they basically have a conversation. Isolde's still like upset that she believes her chastity is gone, but Annie does fill her in on what that would actually entail. But the really important thing here is that Isolde wants her and Annie to do the best that they can together as holy knights. But this is when Annie like very sadly says, "Oh, but I'm not a holy knight." It's one of those things where it definitely goes back to Annie's dream of becoming a holy knight, and the fact that she's made it all the way here to Leonis and she's been through some crazy stuff, but she still necessarily isn't at her goal. I don't want to say she's not any closer, because I feel like she may not be realizing that she's in prime position to become a holy knight, but she just might not realize it yet. It definitely sets it up for her story that maybe she could train in Leonis and become a holy knight, or at least an apprentice holy knight, or something along those lines. Because as we know, those are just titles. Like, you don't have to be a holy knight to be really powerful. Like, you don't have to be like some crazy diamond platinum ranked holy knight to be like useful in the story, I guess. So maybe she could become an apprentice holy knight and actually like do something. So we're just gonna have to see on that one. The next one of Percy's group that we get to see is Nanson's. Now this one is actually the one I was most excited for, because I wanted Nanson's to like meet with Hendrickson as soon as like they made that like connection of Hendrickson having an apothecary, and Percy was like, "Oh, I bet Nanson's would love it here." This is when they first got there, so I've been waiting on this exact moment for a while now. And of course, Nanson's is like a kid in a candy store. There's everything he could ever want there, and it's kind of interesting, I guess. I don't know why, but when Nansons was explaining to Hendrickson where he learned everything from Ordo, I kind of wanted there to be some type of connection to Ordo and Hendrickson, like maybe Hendrickson knew him or something. But it kind of just gets brought up and nothing is done with it. I mean, it's not a bad thing. I just thought it was like, oh, what's even the point of saying that? But so Nansons is there and he is, getting a bunch of information. This is when Hendrickson approaches him with the proposition of he should stay there and, practice medicine under him, since he's already has an incredible gift for it. His ability goes hand in hand with, he's basically destined to be a great pharmacist or herbologist or whatever you want to call it. But obviously, as we know, Nanson's loves Percival. Like, that's, they are really close friends. I know people have this agenda that Nanson's is secretly a girl and he has a crush on Percival. Nanson's is a guy and Percival is his first friend, which is why he's so weird about it. Dolores says this. He basically says he's never had a friend. This is why he's so weird about it. But that, none of that matters. Anyway, that's Nanson's whole thing. Nanson's wants to travel with Percival. So him staying here kind of like goes against that entirely, but at the same time he wants to master the art of medicine. So it's kind of like he's really conflicted. Now, even more so than Annie, I definitely want him to stay because he'd be very useful. But unlike Annie, if he does decide to continue to travel with Percival, he's not going to be nearly as useless as, say, Annie would be, because no matter what, people will still be affected by poisons and chemicals and things like that for the most part in Seven Deadly Sins. Unless you're some type of race like a fairy, there's probably certain demons, like there's probably certain other races that have a higher tolerance or resistance to, but for the most part you'll get pretty far with poisons and medicines if you're Nansen. So he might not be the strongest combatant, but he offers great utility. So I could kind of see him going either way. I would like for him to stay, but I also would like for him to continue with Percival too. And then lastly, of Percival's group, we have Donnie. Donnie was just visiting his grandparents. I don't remember Hauser's mom's name, but I know I know Hauser's dad's name was Razor. He still basically looks the exact same, which is the funniest thing, which is just Hauser with a giant beard. But while Donnie is leaving to visit them, he runs into Jade and Cheon. And this is when Cheon basically, he just starts being at Donnie for no reason, accusing him of trying to rob them and all that. And this is when Donnie reveals that, he is their grandkid, being the son of Hauser's sister. So, he's just visiting his grandparents. And this is when Chion makes the connection of who Donnie is, and like, oh, he's that guy that ran away, he's just a coward. And he like basically is like, oh, I hear, all you do is make things float, can you actually float my staff? He's patronizing him essentially. And it's weird because Donnie actually does it. Donnie actually makes his staff float, like, just to humor him. And then this is when Chion takes it a step further and starts to make fun of Percival, and that's where Donnie draws the line. I like this moment because it reminds me a lot of Usopp from One Piece. Like, back in, I want to say it was Alabasta, when that was the breaking point for Usopp. When Usopp was like, you can make fun of me and call me a coward all you want, but don't laugh at my captain's dream or his friend's dream. So it's similar to that, where Donnie was like, you can make fun of me or whatever, but you start talking about Percival, that's where I draw the line. So he like yanks Chion in, and no lie, I really thought he was gonna punch him. I wanted Donnie to punch him so bad. Like, Chion's powers are kind of cool, whatever this spirits things that he has going on, but his personality is really rough. He makes it hard to even kind of like him. I mean, he basically was about to kill one of the Four Knights, or attempted to kill one of the Four Knights, and he's basically getting off scot-free, which is kind of wild. I'm assuming with all the stuff that like Arthur happened, all of his treasonous actions just get thrown out of the window. But like, I get it, he has some sway, he's Tristan's friend. Meliodas is a pretty nice guy, so it's like he basically skates. Not that he could kill Gawain even if he wanted to, like the actual Gawain, but he does get to skate. So that is a little but it is what it is. But in the middle of their confrontation, this is when Gil Thunder pops up. And Gil Thunder basically, he totally stops this, and Gil Thunder recognizes Donnie, which is kind of weird to me because I guess this part isn't weird because Gil Thunder and Hauser were really close. So it would make sense that Gil Thunder would know of, Hauser's sister, and would know she had a kid, and probably met Donnie a few times. But I think it's weird because this next part we find out that Chion is Gil Thunder's son, which I never saw that coming. I guess the only resemblance I saw would be like in the bang covering one eye, I guess. But that's like, that's not enough to make you related. So that's kind of crazy. I just think it's weird that Chion didn't recognize who Donnie was, or doesn't really know who Donnie is outside of the rumors, despite like their parents probably knowing each other. I'm not saying that like Hauser's sister and Gil Thunder were best childhood friends, but I just feel like they would have been mildly close considering how close, Hauser and Gil Thunder are. That's the only weird thing to me. We also get Gil Thunder's rank. He's a cardinal, which is kind of hype. I don't know if you guys remember, that's what Helbram was to Dreyfus and like Henderson, when they were both the Grandmasters way back in the beginning in the first arc of Seven Deadly Sins. So it's kind of cool that he has like a really, really important rank among the Holy Knights. Probably, slightly a reference to how strong he is also. But it's just cool to see he's not just, Meliodas' attendant. This also is another connection between Chion and Gil Thunder that I just thought about. Gil Thunder was low key, like, he was kind of obsessed with Meliodas and the Sins, but it was mostly on like he heavily revered them, and like, was a fan of just getting stronger and all those kind of things. Because whenever they were going to fight, or he got an opportunity to watch them, he was all for it, and Meliodas was like his favorite. So it's kind of interesting to see that his son Chion is even more emphatic about Tristan, which would be Meliodas' son. So that's kind of a little interesting connection that I just thought about. I will say that it's weird that Chion has like, the amount of like obsession to the point to where he's kind of in Vivian territory. And considering the connections between Vivian and Gil Thunder, how she was obsessed with him, it's weird that he would have a kid that's kind of similar to her. Also, his hair being black, I'm assuming it's black. I don't know if we have an official color for it, but Margaret's hair was like this like light lavender-esque color, and Gil Thunder's hair is pink. So just his hair being black is very odd. I wonder if it's dyed, or if there's something going on with that, or maybe he's adopted or something. If he was adopted, I could see that. That would make a lot of sense. But it's just, and then it's also weird that the child of Gil Thunder and Margaret is such a jerk. Like, Margaret was really nice. Like, Margaret is a really nice person, and Gil Thunder, like, is also a good dude. Like, he's a loyal, respectable guy. So it's just weird that their kid ended up being like a total a-hole. It's kind of, I don't know, it's just really weird to me. But basically, Gil Thunder's whole reason for being there was to summon Donnie to the king, and that's basically where they're all going. Percival's whole group, Nanson's, Annie, Donnie, as well as Percival himself, all got summoned to go see Meliodas. And I'm assuming Meliodas is going to give them their next, or their actual task, or tell them what he was going to tell everyone. Since we didn't see Tristan, Lancelot, or Gawain, I'm assuming they're already there, and we're going to get the whole rundown on what's about to happen next. Now, there's a really interesting thing that could happen here that I don't want to happen here. Would be a time skip. It's kind of I know it's a little early in, like, chapters wise, we do got a nice stack, but story and content wise, it could make sense for a time skip. Now, I don't want it to because it's really early, but we could get them sent on like mini training journeys and then come back in some amount of time later and they're just, much stronger or much better than they were before. It's kind of setting up that way, but that's not what I want. I am assuming though that Nakaba is going to do, the Nakaba thing, and he's going to send Percival and some people on a mission, and then you command everybody else to stay there and get stronger. Like he's going to say, "Oh, Annie, you have to stay here and do some like Holy Knight training." Or like her and Donnie have to stay here and do Holy Knight training, and Nansons has to stay and like apprentice under Hendrickson. Like I feel like he's going to make them do that, and then send Percival somewhere to get stronger too, maybe with like Gawain or something. Like maybe send another group, and then it's going to be that thing where it's broken up, and then we're just going to get that one group story. Like say we only get Percival's group story, and then we'll finish that or get halfway through that, and then Nakaba will switch back to the people that stayed in Leonis. Maybe something along those lines, because he typically doesn't outright skip character content. Like pretty much whenever anything happens to any character that is established, it goes all the way through. Like I remember in Seven Deadly Sins, we were getting Hauser, Gil Thunder, and Griamore versus a Grey Demon, and it's like, who cares about these three? So Nakaba doesn't really skip character content, so I don't think we're just not going to see anybody if they get split up, but it's definitely kind of leaning that way. As for where Melios could be sending them, I am a huge fan of sending Percival to like maybe Diane and King to get stronger. Maybe they could teach them something, or maybe they need something from wherever they are. It might be kind of weird because I know that their powers just operate innately differently. There's that. There also could be a mission to similar to what Lancelot was talking about before, such as finding Dubs, the master craftsman, to craft everyone some special gear. Because as we know, he was the one that made the sacred treasures. And Lancelot, as I talked about before, is in desperate need of one. Tristan could probably use one too. But basically all the knights really could use their own like signature item. Because I don't want to say a weapon, because I guess Merlin just had a crystal ball, so it wasn't really a weapon. But like they could all use their own thing that could boost their power or give them an extra ability to like make them that much stronger. So I kind of want it to be them finding Dubs. It could be them on a training mission. There's a lot of different ways this could go, but it all is all pretty exciting to like speculate nonetheless. I am curious to know what you guys think Meliodas is going to send them to go do, or what he's going to order everybody, or what the whole purpose of this is. So definitely next chapter we should be getting a lot more of that. But like I was saying, this chapter, I probably gotta give it a 5. It was a really average chapter because nothing really happened. I can't give it a really high score if nothing super crazy happened. So it's going to get a 5 from me, unfortunately. I'm curious to know what you guys think about the chapter, what you guys would give it. Did you guys like it? Did you guys hate it? Was it boring? Did you just outright skip it? I guess if you skipped it, you might not watch the video, or maybe you did, and I appreciate it anyway. But let me know what you guys were thinking about it down below. With that being said, make sure you guys leave a like on the video as well as subscribe to the channel, and I will see you all in my next video.